Welcome to the Shaping Portsmouth podcast. Shaping Portsmouth is a collaboration of key Portsmouth businesses, transforming Portsmouth together. Hello and welcome to another Shaping Portsmouth podcast with me, CEO Dave Humphries, and today I am talking to Gareth Webb, the Managing Director of Fairways, and Natalie Merriman, who is the Head of Fostering and Family Services. Welcome to both of you.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Gareth, let's just start off very quickly. For those that don't know what Fairways is and what we're going to be talking about at all, give me a quick, what's the elevator pitch? What is Fairways?
Thanks, Dave. So Fairways is a multi-service provider. We're a children's charity and that work with vulnerable children in the care system and families. And we're based in, our offices are in Portsmouth and Lakeside, and we've got a number of services based down the south coast. And we've also got some services in Wales and Bath and Bristol.
Okay, brilliant. And so obviously children's charities dealing with all sorts of elements of care for young people. But one of the things we want to talk about today, very specifically, Natalie, is fostering.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is this is currently Fostering Fortnight.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So did you, before we'll talk about fostering some more in a bit, but what is Fostering Fortnight exactly, Natalie?
So Fostering Fortnight is a campaign that was started by the organisation Fostering Network.
Yep.
And they ultimately dedicate 2 weeks, and I see it really as a celebration to be talking all things fostering, really shining the light on all that foster carers do, the need for foster carers. It's commonly known that at the moment there's a national shortage for foster carers up and down the country. So it's a real opportunity just to be talking about that, talking about the sector, what it is foster carers do, how you can support, and the greater impact really for those that are in the system.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent. And sometimes it's good to celebrate
Absolutely.
the important roles people play in our community. So, Gareth, you're managing director at Fairways. How did you end up there? What's the backstory? Because you weren't always in children's care, were you?
No, it's quite, I guess a lot of people say I've got quite a unique pathway into the career that I'm at now, but
It's definitely not the normal route.
it's not. No. So before Fairways, I did a lot of personal training, working in gyms and health clubs, and managed a health club. Also did door security as well, in and out of Portsmouth in various locations. And I was personal training a guy in the gym one day, and he worked for an organisation called Cornerstone, based in Southampton. And they used to take young people in the care system, if they'd been put into a secure unit, back to court and up and down the country in a secure vehicle. And he asked if I would be interested, and I said, "Well, yeah, that sounds good. So get me in." So I went for an interview, got the job, and from there, I guess that was my passion. Really, I found a career that I thrived in. I loved working with these children that are in the care system and really understanding them and what they've been through, their backgrounds, and actually children in care are still children. And from there is where my career flourished, really, and I found something I was passionate in.
Yeah, definitely. And great you kind of find your niche and coming from such a different environment. It's a real change of direction. How about you, Natalie? How did you end up at Fairways?
So I moved to Portsmouth about 17 years ago and begun my social work training at Portsmouth University. And I did my first placement, my social work training placement with Fairways, and it changed everything. I was offered the opportunity to work in the fostering service and just never looked back. And here I am 16 and a half years later, and yeah, loving it.
Where did you come from originally? Where did you move from?
The Berkshire area, yeah.
The Berkshire area.
Yeah.
So why did you choose Portsmouth University for your degree?
I think the social work course was quite attractive at the
Right.
time, and it was nice to be on the south coast, not too far from home as well, I guess. And yeah, just never left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is always a good thing. That's
Yeah.
what we want.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Gareth, Fairways, we hear a lot said about, children in care and the challenges particularly that care leavers face. What's the impact on a young person of sort of growing up in that sort of environment, and the challenges they might face when they hit adulthood because of it?
So, a lot of children in the care system, they say sort of 8 times disadvantaged compared to their peers, and they've experienced some sort of trauma in early childhood, and then they get taken away from their families for whatever the reasons are and the risks associated with that. Then they're put into the care system, where there's another form of trauma, and moved around in the care system from pillar to post at times, and what you start to find is they haven't got that family or that support network around them to encourage them to engage in education and thrive, really, like any young person would. So at Fairways, we try and be very different. We try and ensure that we only give the very best care and education to these young people. We've got one opportunity to make a difference. We've got one life chance for these young people. So we're all passionate about what we do and trying to ensure that when they get to adulthood, 16 plus, that they're independent. They've got a network around them, a Fairways family that can ensure that they can be positive role models in the community and actually have a positive future.
Yeah, and do you know what, it's a really interesting point right at the start of that because you hear people talking about adverse childhood experiences and that trauma informed approach, but you've got a bit of trauma that causes a young person to be put into care in the first place generally, but of course being put into care is in itself pretty traumatic. And will have an impact.
Absolutely, and particularly for young people that have experienced multiple moves.
Yeah.
So some of the young people that come to our services have had so many moves before they come. So for us, it's about how can we change this? How can we shape their journey for them now and be that stopgap and make the quality of their life better and improve their life chances? Yeah.
So how does fostering fit in with that then, Natalie?
So how does fostering fit? So fostering, we're very fortunate. We've got around 40 foster families at Fairways, and we support children from 0 to 18. If they're in education, some young people can stay in their foster placement until they're up to 25, which is awesome. Education or employment, actually. So a real range, and we've got lots of different foster carers because there's lots of different types of children that come into care. So we support children that might be in a sibling group, for example. It might be a parent and child, might be a child with a disability, and ultimately it's where possible providing them long-term care with a foster family.
So I'm guessing that I suppose there's almost like a scale here, and obviously the first and foremost preference is not taking a child away from its family in the first place, and supporting young people to remain with the family. But I suppose once someone is in care, trying to get them into a stable family environment rather than a care home situation is probably the preference.
Yeah, where possible, and it's about matching the child's needs with the foster carer's needs. I think where Fairways are fortunate is because we're a multi-service provider. It might be that we're able to lean on other services, for example, to sort of enhance that child's care package for them. So we've had children successfully move from our residential children's homes into foster care, for example, and we've been able to move the foster carer into the home to build that relationship with the child, to sort of make that kind of consistency as well. So.
Yeah, and as you alluded to back when we were talking about the trauma there, changing settings constantly is quite traumatic. So I guess creating a stable fostering environment where someone can remain for the long term rather than having to keep changing is the ideal.
Absolutely, and that's about support. That's about that support and the levels of care. That's about looking after the foster carer too. So what supports around them in terms of supervision from their social worker? What training can Fairways provide? What will Fairways do in terms of supporting the young person, the foster carer's family? So it all comes as part of that. It's that wider picture, really.
Brilliant. So I suppose on the subject of support, and something I know that we've spoken about, Gareth, is that whole care levers into employment piece, and we do the Choose Employability programme. We work with the City Council trying to encourage businesses to give care leavers work opportunities. But in terms of how a care leaver would encounter a business, there's support needed on both sides, both for the care leaver and for the business. Do you think that's fair to say?
Absolutely, yeah.
And what do you think that looks like? What are the problems care leavers face when they sort of first take up employment?
I think the sort of, as Natalie alluded to, that the biggest need, I think, for these young people is that support network. They haven't got, parents or positive role models at times, and it's having that sort of mentoring approach to help them, do the basic stuff, get out of bed in the morning, understand how to catch the bus, how to budget their money appropriately so they can get to work, etc. But I think it's so important that we try to come together as a business community to try and offer these young people above their peers, I guess, opportunities. You look at homelessness in Portsmouth. 48% of the homeless people we see in Portsmouth were in the care system. You look at the adult prison population. I think it's 49% of the adult prison population were in care, and it's how do we ensure that we try and break that cycle? And I think as a business community we can come together and try and give these young people and young adults opportunities and a chance to thrive, because they're so more disadvantaged to their peers.
Yeah. Do you think there's an argument to make care leaver a protected characteristic in the same way as we, make reasonable adjustments for certain other characteristics?
Yeah, 100%. I think, you look at the data and we know young people in care are disadvantaged. So actually, how can we come together? And at the end of the day, these children are our future. And actually, let's come together and try and give them opportunities and support to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting because we do a lot of work around small business support, and quite often talk about how complicated or not small business support is. And I'll always make the point that it generally isn't as complicated as people think. Largely, someone who's just starting on their business journey just needs someone else that's already walked that path to lean on. And it's a bit of a similar thing, isn't it? But we take it for granted because the person I lent on were my parents and my family. And if I wasn't up in time for work, someone would kick me out of bed and say, "Oh, come on, you're going to be late, get to work." And you can't wear that to work, or, this is how you get there. And I had that support. And because it was so organic at the time, you don't think about it. And you particularly don't think about how difficult it is for someone who hasn't got that support.
100%. And, some of these young people in care are written off. But actually, when you actually look at these young people, they're survivors. They've got so many skills that they've learned, the resilience, the adapting to different environments. They're very resourceful and very determined. And actually, if we could turn them positive skills, into something in the workplace and actually positive in the community, they could do so much. They could be thriving.
Absolutely. And I suppose it's, back to that sort of adverse childhood experiences piece that ultimately you would prefer a society that eliminated the things that have happened that caused the trauma to happen in the first place. But the second part of that is recognising that it has happened to certain people, and by making allowances and supporting them in the right way, they can make a huge contribution.
Absolutely. And needs don't just change at 18. Like you were talking about there in terms of the backing and the foundation. A lot of these young people haven't had that.
Yeah.
And they need that. They need that funding. They need that support post 18.
Yeah, definitely. So, coming back to the fostering piece, then Natalie, we kind of spoke about this being Fostering Fortnight, and I guess that for any other sort of celebratory week, it would normally be a week, but obviously for the alliteration of Fostering Fortnight, it's got to be 2, which is no bad thing. Well, people can deal with it for 2 weeks, but part of it obviously is that celebration piece. We've got foster carers out there doing a great job. We've got people that have been fostered,
Absolutely.
that have got a lot to offer, and we kind of need to recognise that.
And they're sharing their experiences, so they're being heard. So this is, we've got some young people that will talk about, this is what it looked like for me
Yeah.
in foster care. This was what was great. This is what wasn't so great. So it's that learning piece as well, and using that feedback.
And I guess that for everyone, their story's all very personal and different.
Yeah. Yeah.
For no two people, the experience is going to be the same.
Yeah.
But there's probably a more serious side to this as well, isn't there? Around the I suppose the demand for fostering.
Yeah, that's right. So sadly, there is a national shortage of foster carers. More and more young people are entering the care system and are requiring foster placements, whether that be emergency, short-term basis with the possibility of reunification home, or perhaps longer-term foster care placements. So up and down the country, we're hearing time and time again that there is a demand, there's a shortage, and we need people to come forward. I think there's a lot of stigma around who can foster and what does fostering look like. So again, this campaign will eliminate some of those things, and people can make inquiries to Fairways. We can talk about it, talk about the process, because I think initially sometimes that puts applicants off because they know about this intensive assessment period. But yeah, we need to be talking about it. The time is now. We need to be shining that light on why we need foster carers.
So, okay, what does that look like then? What is the process? So, is there some truth in it being quite intensive? And I guess there naturally has to be some important safeguards. But what if I wanted to become a foster carer? What am I having to deal with to do that?
So, I mean, in summary, it's just a very lengthy interview process, and you would be allocated a social work assessor that would get to know you and your family who lives in your home, and ultimately they are there to assess whether you've got capacity, the ability to care for a vulnerable child in your home. So they're going to be looking at things like your home environment, who lives there, is there any other children, do you have any childcare experience? You don't strictly have to do that, but we'll capture that in, where you're working, health and safety, sort of local authority checks and things. So it's an extensive process, but rightly so. But your allocated social worker is there, they're present, they'll support you through that, and the family as well.
So obviously you've kind of got fostering and you've got adopting, and they're very different, aren't they? So how would you explain the difference between the two?
Well, we strictly support foster carers. I would describe that as adoption is a much longer term thing. It becomes a legal arrangement.
Yeah.
So you would legally become that child's parent through the court process.
Which
so that's
is
different
not
to
the
foster.
case in fostering.
Some foster carers do fostering to adopt, so they'll support the child until the child's ready for adoption, or they might say, actually, we think we can do it, but that would be a different assessment process. Yeah.
Okay, so big differences between the two. And I mean, realistically, what might the length of a fostering placement be? Does it vary?
So that really depends on the needs of the child and the what you've been assessed for in terms of suitability. So, for example, it might be a child that has come in for a short-term arrangement, and the local authority and Fairways may be working together to support the child return home. If that's not possible, then they would look at a long-term arrangement, which in some cases we've had children right the way through their childhood. And I mentioned staying put earlier. We've got children that have stayed with the foster carer post-18 through, and they've been in education and employment. So that's your best case scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah, because I suppose there's a danger of creating a bit of a cliff edge when someone turns 18, and I've got adult children, a daughter and a stepdaughter. One's at university, one's just finished university, and she's kind of moved back home.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of difficulties for young people in terms of creating that independence, getting on the housing ladder, all of those difficulties. And if you haven't got that family support, even harder again. So being able to come back and stay beyond 18 is probably quite important.
Absolutely, and it comes back to their needs don't change overnight just because they're 18. So to be able to stay with a family that's cared for them, that knows them, that loves them, will be there, is crucial.
Yeah. So Gareth, obviously you're getting commissioned by local authorities to both provide care and to provide foster support, I guess.
Yeah.
How does that work then in terms of the young people that might be allocated for a foster placement?
So all our funding comes through the local authority. Our biggest provider is Hampshire, and they will sort of work with our placements team and our fostering department to get the right match of carers. But it's all funded through the local authority.
And I suppose there's probably some, I don't know, is stigma the right word? Stigma around the type of young person that you might get allocated to you for fostering. They're all going to have behavioural issues or be criminals or whatever. That's not really the case, is it?
Absolutely not. And again, I think these campaigns such as Fostering Fortnight will kind of get rid of some of that stuff, because there's lots of things that you often hear the negatives in the press, don't you? So this is why this sort of thing's so important. But again, it comes back to matching. So we would match a young person with the foster carer based on their skills. How are they best going to meet the needs of that child? And we have to take into consideration that the foster family may have their own children.
Yeah.
And how does the foster young person then fit in to the family? And we want it to work for everybody. So there's a very extensive matching process that takes place first. Yeah.
So what type of person are you looking for to be a foster carer?
I get asked this a lot. There is no one type of foster carer because there is no one type of child. We need carers from an array of different backgrounds to be able to meet the needs of the children that are coming into care. So single carers, same-sex carers, couples with children, couples without children, couples from minority backgrounds. We support a number of children that are seeking asylum, separated children. So it really varies.
Yeah, and in fact, I going back to my policing days, actually, I remember the unaccompanied children scenario, which is a much bigger problem than I think people realise in terms of young people coming over, whether they're illegal immigrants seeking asylum, however they end up here, they still end up here, and we then have that duty of care for them. So,
that's right.
Really, really tricky one. So, what would be for, if you were kind of pitching it to someone, what would be the benefits of becoming a foster carer? What's the sell?
Without question, one of the most rewarding jobs, I believe, and that's the feedback that we get from our foster carers. I will balance that with it being incredibly challenging at times. This is a role where it's 24/7. Your work then becomes your home life in a sense as well, and you don't switch off from that. So in that sense, there's that challenge, but that's why the importance of the level of support comes in there. But foster carers come into this who are, and you want people to be motivated, you want people to be able to want to make that difference. And you do. You're changing a young person's life, as I say, whether that's from a short-term emergency capacity to longer-term care, and seeing the difference in the journey over a period of time as well, I would say.
And is fostering a voluntary role, or do people get paid to do it?
So foster carers are paid. Yeah, they're paid.
So that would be another difference to adopting, where you're...
Yes. Yeah, that's
doing
right.
it voluntary to become someone's parent.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
So foster carers are doing it as a job, effectively.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it takes something to do this, So I think the money is secondary.
Yeah.
I think you really need to want to do this and come into this, and you rightly should be paid because it, as I said, it is a challenging role that you're taking on, and it's life changing. It's those small pockets of moments where, carers said to me, they've had some really challenging moments, and then they just see that change in the young person, and it's like, yeah, we've got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can very much see your point. I think if anyone's going into foster caring solely because of the income stream, it's probably not the right thing to be doing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Gareth, we've spoken about a fostering friendly employers policy. What's fostering friendly employers about?
Okay, so we what it is, it's a policy and an initiative to try and get businesses on board to support any of their staff to be able to foster. So they would still work for the employer, but it allows them to offer the opportunity for these young people to have a loving family. Yeah, so it's about awareness and support for the staff, to do that.
And I suppose it's a bit like where certain businesses might give staff volunteering days, or they might say that, through signing something like the Armed Forces Covenant, we're going to support employees that are members of reserve services or cadets with the time they need to go and do their training or whatever. This would be similar to that, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. So it's, sort of, as Natalie sort of spoke about earlier, there's a national crisis, a shortage of foster carers. Nationwide, we need over 5,000 foster carers. And in this year, since January to now, so in the last 4 or 5 months in Portsmouth, there's been 200 referrals from Portsmouth. So 200 children in Portsmouth requiring a fostering family.
Wow.
And it's look, how do we come together as a business community to try and allow people and staff to be able to foster? And all they ask for is for you to have a basic policy, which is a 1 to 2 page policy, which really all it requires is for you as an employer to allow your staff up to 3 days a year to attend fostering training, and then a further up to 5 days a year to attend the child's review meetings or education meetings. So, and it's free to join. It doesn't cost the business any money, but what it does, it just raises the awareness and allows anyone that's thinking about fostering to sort of step forward and know that they're supported by the company they work for. And we've got an ambition, and we want to try and get as many businesses in Portsmouth to sign up to this.
Yeah. So we've spoken initially about trying to get an initial 50 businesses signed up to be fostering friendly employers. And I've made the commitment that Shaping Portsmouth will be the first to sign that. So we will go out and we will try and get some more of our business community to now agree and sign up to that. But as you say, it doesn't cost the business anything. The staff members we're talking about are just those that are foster carers. But actually, it probably opens up another employment avenue in terms of people that might be concerned about what support they would get in the workplace that are already foster carers. If they can see a business is signed up, they might be more inclined to apply for a job there.
Definitely, and that's it. It's about getting the support from the employer, but then but also fostering with Fairways, the support like Natalie was talking about that we offer our carers as well. That support network, and I think if we can collaborate and have the employer working with Fairways and supporting that staff member, we're going to allow these staff to provide families for these young people.
And absolutely, it's about that connection, isn't it? It's about, as we kind of spoke about, the support for like young people, like care leavers particularly, and the support they need to access the workplace. Sometimes the businesses need that support as well in terms of understanding the challenges. And the good thing about signing up to being a fostering friendly employer is you're then connected into Fairways and yourselves, and those businesses can use you to ask for support if they need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's not complicated. I think I probably best liken it to the Armed Forces Covenant, where all we're asking is for businesses to sign a commitment effectively. We're not asking them to do anything until they've actually got someone in their organisation that is a foster carer. But I think just showing yourself to have agreed to support foster carers and being that foster friendly business just adds just another 1% to that process of dealing with the challenge of recruiting foster carers to look after the young people that need them.
Definitely.
Definitely good thing to do. So I'm going to make no apology to any of our businesses out there who are going to have to suffer listening to us bang on about friendly fostering employers, not just for the next 2 weeks for Fostering Fortnight, but on an ongoing basis. I think it's fairly safe to say we will be out there in amongst the Portsmouth business community, asking businesses to think about that. It's nothing onerous. We can manage the sign up, and you can support anything that they need after that in terms of any challenges that come with having a foster carer as an employee. So it's got to be a win-win, hasn't it, for everyone?
Definitely, Dave. Yeah.
Helps.
Just want business to sign up, please.
Yeah, helps the business community, helps the foster carer, and therefore helps the children that need fostering.
Yeah.
So no-brainer, definitely. So what else is going on in the world of fairways currently? I know one of the things we spoke about previously, Mac did a presentation at our conference about the Phoenix project.
Yes. So another initiative that we're really trying to drive forward is a care leavers community project. So amongst this conversation, we've spoken about the disadvantage and the challenges that young people face when leaving care. They call it the care cliff edge, and it's looking at how do we come together again as a business community to try and provide employment opportunities for care leavers and mentoring programs. And we've got this initiative of setting up the Phoenix project in the local community where we can get businesses on board, and we're going to look at different type of sculptures of famous people that have been in care and have them in the city. And we can try and get businesses to join where we can offer apprenticeships to young people and opportunities and work opportunities for the future.
And it's quite interesting, some of those famous people.
Yes, yeah.
Who've you got on the list?
We've got the author of The Jungle Book.
Yeah, Rudyard Kipling.
Yep. We've got Star Wars.
Yeah, that was the one that tickled me when Mac first mentioned it, because you don't really think about it, but yeah, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, both come from care.
Yeah. And there's a few sort of superheroes as well. When you look at sort of characters of like Superman
was, fostered, was he, or it was a foster family, wasn't it? He lived with a family, so
I think that was Spider-Man as well, I believe. But
yeah,
all involved in the care system.
Yeah. It is interesting. So that's something that businesses can get involved in a number of ways through supporting that kind of employment opportunities in terms of apprenticeships and stuff, but also just getting in there and sponsoring a sculpture.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
So, and I'm guessing if businesses want to know more about how they do that, just contact yourselves at Fairways.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully watch this space soon. We're going to be looking to do a exhibition in Gunwharf, where we've got a chainsaw sculpture that's going to start to look at some of these models. But it's fascinating to see the public can watch him carving and making these sculptures. So yeah, that's quite exciting. But that's hopefully coming up in the summertime. So yeah, watch this space.
So no, loads going on there, and with the reinvigoration of that whole area through the coastal scheme work, it's absolutely brilliant to do something linked to that, which really raises the profile of all the good stuff you're doing. So again, any other businesses wanting to get involved in that, if you don't know how to get a hold of the team at Fairways, you can always come through Shaping Portsmouth. We will gladly make that connection, and certainly be looking to support that. But no, it's great to see some sort of positive stuff being done around what I suppose is really quite a horrific problem right at the outset in terms of young people having to go into care in the first place. So and it's great to see a charity like Fairways locally playing such a big part in that, not just here in Portsmouth or Hampshire, but you're quite wide reaching, aren't you?
Yeah. So we've got our predominantly a lot of our services are based in Portsmouth and dare I say it, Southampton.
Yeah.
But we have got a crisis intervention centre in Wales, which we're really proud of. It's really successful. We offer 12-week interventions to young people that are in crisis. So they could be in a gang, they could be being exploited, and we take them into the Brecon Beacons. We do a 12-week programme where we do a lot of outward bounds activities to try and build their resilience and their motivation, their self-esteem, but really allow them to be a child again.
Yeah.
And that's really successful. And we've got 2 crisis homes that we currently operate. So, yeah, we've got a wide range of services. We've got 3 specialist schools as well. One that specialises in autism, which is based in Totton. And then we've got one in Fareham and one in Swanwick, where we work with social and emotional mental health needs as well. So we've got a real wide scope of services that we offer.
Yeah, brilliant. It's amazing stuff. Great stuff that you're doing. So, we as I said before, make no apology for really talking lots over this fortnight about fostering, and particularly the Fostering Friendly Employers Scheme. Do come to us at Shaping. If you want to sign up, I will gladly come and get your signature on the commitment, and we will pass that back. We'll hold the register of all of that with yourselves at Fairways, and so we know who's signed up and where support can be given. But we always like to finish our podcast with a little bit of reflection back into Portsmouth and a recommendation around somewhere to go or something to do. So obviously you're Portsmouth born and bred, Gareth. You must have lots of ideas around that one.
Yeah, I do. I won't say Fratton Park, but I do like my food. And one place I do recommend is Agora. It's a Cypriot and Turkish restaurant based in Southsea, and the food is top class. And it's all freshly cooked on the grill. It's really nice. I'd recommend that absolutely.
Is it Elm Grove at the top of the Palmerston Road? Clarendon Road.
Right, that's
Clarendon
it.
Road. Yeah, sorry. Yes, brilliant.
Really
I've been there
good,
a couple of times, and you can see them cooking it all at the back.
That's right.
It's
It's family owned. They're really friendly, and they've been there for years and years. But the food is probably one of the best in Portsmouth, I reckon.
I can't disagree with you on that one, actually. We get a lot of food places crop up on these recommendations. That's a good one. Do you know, I won't discount Fratton Park. We'll let you sneak that in as well.
We're staying up, so that's
especially, good. Especially as we're very close to Fratton Park here at Spark Community Space. So, it's a good one. So, I'm guessing Pompey born and bred is fairly safe to assume that you're a Portsmouth fan.
I am, yes, yeah. I am a Pompey fan, and I'm glad they're staying up this season, just about. So
it's well, it could turn out actually with a result at the weekend. Of course, this will go out after that, but to be quite comfortable. But also great that the women's team have stayed in the championship as well.
Yep.
So double bonus. So Natalie, what about you? What would your recommendation be?
So I'm going to stick with the food theme.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with the Southsea Beach Cafe, who do an outstanding breakfast. So after your Sunday morning stroll or before, down there for a breakfast, it's lovely. Yeah. Really, really nice.
Yeah, obviously been a few challenges down there with the seafront work that's been going on.
Yeah.
But it's a great location. Sit and eat and look out over the sea.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
And actually, it's quite bizarrely quite a nice place to go when the weather isn't so great, because it's quite interesting you feel warm and safe in there. Yeah. I've been in there sort of middle of winter where you've got the blankets on the seats.
So nice.
You can it's still nice and warm in there. But they breakfast is a good shout. We do like breakfast, but they they do good food during the day and the evenings there as well. Actually, it's just it's a great excuse to have a little walk along the seafront.
Yeah.
Have something to eat, a nice drink, and wander back.
Yeah.
Definitely with you on that one. Sounds good. Thank you very much to you both for coming in. We're going to be pumping Fostering Friendly Employers continually now. And again, no apologies for that one, but really, really great stuff you're doing at Fairways. Lots of really marginalised young people who need that support, who deserve that chance, because it's not their fault that they find themselves in the circumstances they did. And it's so great that there are people so passionate about helping them as yourselves out there. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks to Shaping Portsmouth. Thank you.
Thank you. This podcast was brought to you by Shaping Portsmouth, working to make Portsmouth the #1 UK city in which to invest, live, learn, work and visit. To find out more, please visit shapingportsmouth.co.uk. This podcast was supported by Spark Community Space and Portsmouth Community Lottery.